is the art of meditation, or I would even say the art of true meditation. There are a lot of meditation techniques out there, and they're all fine for what they are. But I would say there are some that are definitely better than other meditation techniques or suggestions. Now, of course, it all depends on what it is you wish to realize. Given that the topic that we're focused on is the science of self-realization or enlightenment, and making this accessible to you in a directly experiential way so that you experience what it's like to be liberated from the false assumptions that you have of yourself. That you can recognize your eternalness, your changeless, pristine, blissful self, beyond the surface of your thoughts and emotions and belief systems. Given that this is our goal, that this is our intention for this sort of course or retreat, there's definitely a selection of meditation suggestions or methods, if you will, or models that are definitely more precise and that will be more efficient to get us to that goal, or if we see it as a spectrum, to get us to experience more and more of that goal on a day-to-day basis. There's mainly three methods that I want to share with you that are sort of distillations, very direct methods. All the time you do spend on meditation will help you get closer to a sort of vibrational alignment or an alignment in consciousness with that supreme self, the God state, that enlightened body or the enlightened mind, if you will, the natural state, the liberated state, the free state, that state of pure consciousness. One I already shared with you last week, without really mentioning that I was sharing it with you, which was practice of relaxing all your thoughts and emotions, and especially relaxing your allegiance to the thoughts and the emotions, your descriptions about the thoughts and the emotions, your definitions of what's appearing. We discussed how there is consciousness, and then there is what appears. So every experience that consciousness is having, we call an appearance. A thought is an appearance. It appears. It appears, and then it disappears. It appears, and then it disappears. An emotion, as visceral and intense and close to yourself as it may feel, and as threatening at times as it may feel, an emotion is an appearance too. Energy in the body, sensation, sense perceptions of any kind, really. Taste, hearing, sight. These are all appearances. And we could view these appearances as if they are arising within the subject, within that greater self, or within that space of consciousness. And on a day-to-day basis, we get so lost in object attention. And really, when you boil enlightenment down, the process of enlightenment, of deepening self-realization, it's basically as simple as dissolving more and more of our object attention addiction, our addiction to object attention. We're like this kitty cat, when you get a new kitty cat as young, playful, and it just, whatever moves, it's focused on whatever moves. And we are actually like that, even if we're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. We're still kind of like this. Ooh, emotion. Ooh, thought. Ooh, sensation. Ooh, promise of pleasure. Ooh, promise of pain. We're constantly object-focused, and we're constantly describing the contents of our consciousness, the contents of our perception. And because we're so focused on the contents of our perception, we forget the bigger thing that is subtler, but that is so obviously present and larger or bigger or grander or greater or prior to or more foundational than the objects that appear. So enlightenment can be distilled as, or summarized as, a change in attention from object focus to subject focus. We forget the subject as soon as we're focused on an object. And our focus on an object typically, again, goes hand in hand with a description of an object, or the description of an appearance. And what we find is that when we relax our descriptions of what appears, our attention quite naturally begins to sink back, sort of step back onto itself, or rest back into its deeper state of consciousness, its source, if you will. When we're focused on objects, Our attention goes outward. We develop descriptions, definitions, belief systems. We develop a subject-object relationship to the contents of our consciousness. And this subject-object relationship, on a day-to-day basis, as it gets reinforced, without no real awakening from this spell for the majority of our adult lives, and as we grow up, actually. So basically our entire lives, we are caught in this wheel of object-focused attention, a state of consciousness that is caught up in the sense of I'm a subject, although it doesn't even really have that sense consciously. It's lost even that sense in a typical case. But it's the consciousness that's lost its own status, its own awareness of itself. And it's now lost in object focus, which produces the feeling that we are the subject in a limited type of way. Like typically that is the body. We feel like we are the body looking at external objects external to our body. And once we're lost in this sort of wheel, and you could call that samsara, some people call that samsara, or the wheel of suffering, it requires us to pause that momentum. It requires us to create an interruption in that stream of thought, that stream of attention, in order to quite literally awaken, just like our dream at night needs to be interrupted in order for us to awaken back to the fact that we were laying in our beds this whole time. It's not very different from that. We need to interrupt ourselves, learn to, in a positive, loving way, interrupt our thought stream, our focus on objects, our focus on describing objects. So the first meditation technique is one that's really simple, and it's applicable multiple times throughout the day. That's the particular use of this third, or we could say first, because I'm describing it first, this first meditation technique. And it's the meditation technique that it's kind of like you take with you wherever you go. It's like you put it in your pocket and you pull it out as often as you remember. Like your phone, and you could even try to remember it every time you look at your phone. So maybe put a image on the background of your phone, and every time you pull it out, it will remind you of this particular meditation, which is to relax all thoughts, all descriptions, for 2 to 5 seconds. Just that. But make sure it's genuine. Make sure that it's not just another thought about relaxing all thoughts for 2 to 5 seconds. Right? So initially you'll have the reminder, okay, I'm going to commit to relax all thoughts or all attention on objects for 2 to 5 seconds. But then actually do it. Actually sort of take a deep breath. You can do it now. Take a deep breath. And almost pretend like you're taking all your thoughts, all your object-focused worries, concerns, attention, stress. You're taking all of that as you breathe in. You're kind of catching all of it. And then you're throwing it out. You're just giving it back to the Creator. You're giving it back to life. You're giving it back to God. You're disowning your thoughts for 2 to 5 seconds. Completely radically. Just for a moment. And, again, important, in that hiatus, in that interruption, in that moment of pause, or you could say that moment of nothingness, brief nothingness. It's a brief introduction to nothingness, which is not the same as self-realization, and we may get into that in a little bit. You're relaxing your attention on the moving component of the mind. As a result, you're kind of left with a blankness or a nothingness, or the space between two thoughts, as it's sometimes referred to. Now, what's important is that that is not yet the meditation that's fruitful. It's not about being blank. It's not about necessarily maintaining a state of non-conceptual thinking, although it has its uses. What's valuable is that in that hiatus, in that blankness, you recognize, and you can try this right now, you recognize that something is aware of that moment. In this case, without thinking too much, by giving away all your thoughts, you can notice, you can sort of wake up to the clarity that remains, the cognizance, the attention, the awareness that remains, that is still aware of my voice, even though you're not really thinking about my voice. And it's like your attention turns away from the objects inside the room, and it becomes aware of the room itself. It's a similar shift, but more profound, if you take this deep enough, because what you're actually doing, and this is really the bottom line of what true meditation is, as opposed to sort of all kinds of meditation techniques that are good for one or two little goals at a time. But when it comes to the real enlightenment-based true meditation methods, what you really want to do is you want for you, and what is you but consciousness, that which hears my voice right now, that which witnesses your body, that which has this feeling of I am, of I exist. And you want, for that consciousness, you want to create an opportunity, as many opportunities as you can, as many reflective moments for that consciousness, that awareness as you can, for it to recognize itself rather than to be lost in object focus. And it might sound a little bit technical, but I hope you agree with me that actually this is the whole summary of enlightenment, and it is quite simple. There's not that much to it. In essence, now we can describe a whole lot of distinctions and sort of stages and all that, but that's really secondary to the message here, the essence of what enlightenment is and what true meditation is. True meditation is nothing but the means to attain greater enlightenment. And so if enlightenment is self-realization, it's recognition, it's realization of self as opposed to objects, or the subject as opposed to objects or appearances, then the true goal of meditation should be to, as directly as possible, create opportunity within your experience for this baseline consciousness, for this primordial state of you, which never changes, to be able to see itself, to notice itself, to catch itself, to hold on to itself, to recognize itself. And there is not really many more effective ways than the 3 ways that I'm about to share with you. And so you can sort of pick and choose, you can try them all. And one I've already shared, which is the one that's kind of the pocket version of the other 2 meditations. Meaning that